Okay, so let's dive right in. Let's begin for today. Okay, so just to put it out there, today might be one of the most challenging classes, but it's one of the phases where you would, have to think very deeply on, okay, because it involves a lot of critical thinking and all, but it's straightforward. Okay, don't stress yourself too much. Just take it bit by bit. All the resources you need are already in the classroom. Okay, all the sample briefs, all the sample materials are already there. Just take it step by step. Okay, don't think too heavily about it. Okay, so 1 weekly, and I know some of you are like, when will you start designing? Or soon. Okay, soon we'll start designing. But remember, week one we said design is a process. Okay, you have to go through the entire process. Come up with meaningful solutions. Okay, because if you just jump right in and you design, remember we said that's decoration. Okay, so today we are doing user journeys, user flows, personas, and
and information architecture.
exactly. So that's why I said today will be a little bit technical and require you to, think a lot, sort of. But you'll be fine. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Okay. So let's start off with what's most important, which is personas. Okay. Don't mind the way I arrange the whole thing, but personas should always come first. Okay. And remember, in the last class, we talked about the design thinking process, okay, where we said you empathize and define, then you evaluate, you prototype, and then you test. Okay, those are the 5 stages we talked about. We discussed the empathy stage last week alongside every other thing, where we talked about research. Okay, so today we're talking on the definition stage of the design thinking. Okay, which is where we have all the big things. This is where we have user journeys, where we have user flows, personas. Okay. Okay. Sorry, can you? Okay. Okay. So now, first things first. When you've gathered your facts, when you gathered your figures, okay, and you can now you can now create meaningful info. So sorry, um, 7. Okay. Okay. That's much better. Okay. So now, when you've gathered all your facts, you've gathered all your figures, you can now create meaningful information from everything you've gathered or everything you've acquired, sort of, which is what the definition stage is all about, because you've researched, you've gotten everything. Now you need to create something that is meaningful from it. You have analyzed it at all, yes, but now you need to make meaningful decisions from it, which is what the definition stage comes in.
No, they've not even uploaded. Take.
The definition stage is more or less you now. Okay, sorry, I get distracted easily by sounds. Sorry, But the definition stage is where you now get to create a picture for what you are doing. Okay, definition stage gives you structure, so it's more or less now making the design process easier for you. because you can now define things, in a certain way. You can now easily state, oh, this is how the application should go. Like this is the route, or this is the direction the application or the product should follow. Okay. So let's start off with personas. Quickly, what are personas? So persona is more or less like a user-centered design or marketing tool. Okay. It came from the marketing world. It was brought into UX design, and is majorly used in creating fictional characters that represent a type of user. Okay. That might use our site, might use our app or our product or something in a particular way. Okay. So creating personas more or less, helps us to understand users' experiences, what users need, okay, their behaviors, their goals, and one of the key things personas helps with, because as designers I would say we are selfish. Okay, designers to a large extent might be selfish. You know, as designers, when we design, we more or less think of ourselves. Okay, so personas help us to step out of ourselves, sort of. So they help you to now know, oh, this product you are designing is not only for you. Okay, there's someone else who needs this product. So personas sort of help us to think beyond ourselves. Okay, if that makes some sense. Okay, so this is what personas looks like. Okay, this basic example, but personas can look anyhow. Okay, some are just plain text, some are much more colorful than this, some can even be up to 5-10 pages long. So it's more or less dictated by the kind of product, or the kind of design, or the kind of app, website, or whatever you are doing, would be at the end of the day. So if what you are doing is much more complex, your persona will be much more complex, okay? Because you would have gathered all those info, you would have gathered those different, requirements, from potential users, okay? So what are the benefits? We've already stated one, that it helps us, step out of ourselves, okay? Another benefit for personas is that it can actually help us, recognize the different people, and the different types of people who would actually use the application, because everything is fictional in your head. You are like, oh, this is an app, meaning students will use it, adults will use it, you know, middle-aged people will use it, older generations will use it, and sorts, but you have not, defined, extensively who those people are, okay? And you can only use personas to achieve this, because personas can now be a much more descriptive form of these individuals, okay? So it can help us also identify the users we are designing for, okay? And personas seem to also make the design task at hand less complex, okay? Because when you start thinking of design and you are only in your head, you tend to forget things, okay? So personas help us to drill down on who is who, okay? And it helps us to also even make meaningful decisions on things like typography, things like color, things like how to layer or place elements, which is why it's very, very, very important. Okay. So how do you create personas? Okay. In your classroom exercise materials, there's a sample persona there, which you can always use. Okay. But like I said, it will be dictated by the type of product, or the type of project you are working on. So I would advise you look deeply into it. There are a lot of study materials for personas, but look deeply into your product, because there's no one method of creating a persona per se. Okay. There's no direct method of creating a persona, but your product will determine how you will go about it. But if you look at the previous image of what they look like, they are basic things, the name of the person, favorite quotes from the person, the demographics of the person, the age, location, education, job, family, okay, How well are they in, how sound are they in tech? Do they use the internet? Okay. Do they use social media, for example? Do they read books? Do they like outings? What are their favorite locations? Things that would relate to the product you are creating. Remember that. Now, if you look at this persona here, it's more or less a product for book lovers. Okay. So you can see goals, being maybe the person wants to discover new books. You can see goals being maybe the person is finding unique stories. Okay. You can see frustrations like, finding space for more books. Okay. Those are things you would have gotten from your research. Okay. If you had done maybe interviews, you would have gotten things like that. If you had done surveys, you would have gotten, things like a name, things like demography, okay, like their age group where they fall into, if they are married or they are single. You'd have gotten things like habits from their surveys. You know. So these are basic infos that you can actually bring into your persona, to create this fictional character. Remember, they are not real. Okay, some people go hardcore and they're like, I must get real people for my personas. It's fine, but it's not really necessary. Okay, you can always create fictional characters and place them there for your personas. Okay, so remember, there's no direct way of doing it. Okay, okay. So how do you create? Two major things to note when creating personas is that you must have at least interviewed or observed people. Okay. So it's very important that you interview and you observe people, because this will form the basis of your persona. Okay. Uh, Not necessarily only interviews, but surveys also works. Then you need to find patterns in interviewees, okay? The way they respond, their responses and their actions. You can now use this to group similar people together, okay? So for example, if you are creating, an app, or let's even say maybe a chat bot, for example. Okay. People who chat a lot are the millennials, the newer generations, right? Okay. People from, let's say, 30 downwards, okay? They are the ones who chat the most. So using that demography, you can group people together and say, oh, this set of people will be ideal for a persona because they are the ones who will be, used to that product. Okay. You can even go outside that grouping, and you can now have people within the age bracket of 50, 60, and you can have things like their frustrations, okay? And you can dwell heavily on their frustrations when creating that persona type, okay? Because you can now have things like, oh, they are old, so they use glasses. As a result, it's difficult for them to type, okay? You can now put into maybe your solutions for that as being, creating, you know, audio to text, AIs for them. So those are ways you can use personas, to create these different demographics of people. There's no one size fits all. Okay, so I can't just tell you this is the way to do personas because nobody knows the actual way to do personas because it's determined by your research. Okay, that's why we started there. Okay, so based on what you have gotten from your research, you can now group people and create personas. Okay, so remember the sample persona is in the class, the study material, so you can make use of that. Okay, okay, so let's move on to user journeys. Okay, now user journeys in okay, let's use the bigger definition. Okay, they say user journey is a series of steps, typically 4 to 12 steps, which represent a scenario in which a user might interact with the thing you are designing. Okay, uh, there are two main things or two main functions of a user journey. Okay, and the first one is to demonstrate the way users currently interact with your service or your product or your website. Okay. The second use of a user journey would be to demonstrate the way a user could or you intend for a user to interact with your product or your service or your website or your app. Okay. So user journeys are also referred to as journey maps. Okay, so a lot of times new users will be like, and new UX designers will be like, what's the difference between user journey? What's the difference between journey map? They are the same thing. Okay, they are. It's just UX term. Some guys like to feel dope and say, did you create the journey map? Okay, so it's still the same thing. Don't get carried away. User journey is still the same as journey maps. Okay, and they come in all forms of shapes and sizes. Okay, so that's why I said this week will be a little bit tasking, but at the end of the day, everyone has a way of doing their own persona or their own journey. Okay, so you need to find a style that works for you. Okay, basically, you know. But user journeys come in all forms of shapes, sizes. And again, some of them are just text. Okay, you don't even need to be that complex or something like that. Okay.
UX system and class size. Perfect. I thought you were even there. That was what I was trying to do. I sent you the link.
So in time, you will come to uh, be comfortable with using design software like Figma, XD, Sketch, and the likes. So that way you might be able to now do these things in them. But for the beginner aspect, be comfortable with using the text. Most of the times, even top level UX designers don't even know any design software. Okay. You find top industry leading UX designers and they don't know a single design software. If you put them on Figma or XD or Sketch, they can't do anything, because the idea is about understanding the user. So the basic tools are more than enough. Okay, you can find UX designers who just use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and they are wonderful UX designers. Okay, so don't get carried away about the way some of them might look. Okay, so this is what user journey looks like. This is one example of what it looks like. Okay, this is not necessarily it. It can be text. Remember, you know, and like we said, user journeys, are also journey maps. Okay, and a user journey map or a user journey is more or less a visualization of the process that a person will go through in order to accomplish a goal, okay, in your product and your application, okay. So if you look at this image now, you're seeing all the different branches, all the different trees, okay. So it's more or less what actions the user will perform on your app or on your website or, on your product, to accomplish a particular goal. So let me use Uber as an example. Okay, let me use Uber as a basic explanation of the user journey. Okay, so you download the app, for example, you have the Uber app. Okay, how would the user journey be like on Uber app? Okay, so you will have more or less the user takes out his phone. Okay, the user enters the destination to where he or she is going to. Okay, he chooses a car, chooses the price, or he agrees to the price. Okay, he receives confirmation that the car is coming, and then he puts his phone down. Okay, that is a user journey. Okay, and you can represent that with text. You can just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is it. That's a user journey. Okay, user journey is more or less concerned with is not really concerned with the functionality or the specifics of your process, okay, of the entire of each and every process. Because now, if you look at an application, it will have multiple processes in it. Okay, on Facebook now, the first process might be your feed, okay, your home feed, and what can you do there? You can view pictures, you can check out videos, you can like pictures, you can, I don't know if there's a dislike button, yeah, you can comment, you can do all those other things, okay? That is more, okay, when we get to flow, that was where we'll explain flow better. That's more or less a user flow because you are performing an action, or a process within a specific part or a specific portion of that product, okay? Whereas the user journey is concerned about a top level of the entire application, okay? So if we are looking at the top level of Facebook, it will be, I log in, I check feeds, I respond to messages, I like, I dislike things, I log out, okay? That is a user journey. Okay, you are looking at the holistic view, the top level view of the entire application or the entire product. So you're not looking at smaller bits of the product. Okay, so why do we need user journeys? Okay, one, we need user journeys to demonstrate the vision for the project. Okay, now user journeys are more or less a great way to communicate with you know with clients or with stakeholders. Okay, you get to show them examples of what the future state of a program would be like. Okay, or what their a product would be like. Okay, so it helps you to more or less visualize. Most clients or most business people who would want products like this, want uh, websites or would want applications, will be business centric. They'll be business inclined, and these guys are more or less used to charts, more or less used to diagrams and the likes. So we use personas, sorry, not personas, user journeys, okay, to depict what the vision will look like to them. Okay, and your user journey should not always be limited to just diagrams alone. Okay, you should always accompany it with some sort of explanation. Okay, from experience, some of them would see it and be like, oh, okay, what does this mean? Okay, you should have some sort of explanation for each part of what you feel is the entire journey. The second benefit for user journeys is that they help us understand user behavior. Okay, so how user journeys sort of help you work out how a user is going to interact with your product. Okay, so let's go back to the Uber example. The user takes out his phone. The user would search for a destination. Okay, and then the user will get confirmation, and then the user puts his phone back. Okay, all this can lead you to understand how the user is going to use your product. Okay, it can help you understand the behavior of the user towards your product. That way, you can now get to bring in, what do we call it? Padding into your system. Okay, what do I call padding here now? So for Uber now, the user will set something. What I might now factor into yeah, for the user. Okay, one of the things might now be, oh, you want them to be able to see those cars. Okay, because now users might get paranoid and be like, where's my car? Where's my car? I ordered for a car. Okay, so with all these things, user journeys tend to help you, predict or depict how a user would behave with your product, because you are looking at it from a top level view now. Okay, when you get to user flows, this will make much more sense, because you can now get to, get down, you can now get really low to the level of the user and understand, how you can now implement this in the different phases. But as a general rule, journeys help you to just know how a user would behave towards your product. Okay. The third thing is that they help identify possible functionality at a high level. Sorry, I know everyone likes using Uber as as the example for user journeys, because it's a very, very wonderful, a well thought out product. Okay, so how do you identify possible functionalities? Oh, I know users want to order a ride. Oh, how do I know where the car is? How do I know where this and that is? Oh, there's an API like a Google Maps API. Oh, so I can use Google Maps to be able to show them where cars are. I can use Google Maps to be able to show them, where they are at the moment and where they are going to. Okay, it has helped you to identify what functionalities you need to bring in. Okay, that way when you are sharing the journey map with maybe designers or developers, they already know what to expect. Okay, it can show you, oh, because there's traffic, it means, oh, we can increase the price of the fare. All these things play in, based on you looking at the product from a top level. Okay, the fourth and final benefit is They help you to define the taxonomy and interface. Okay, so taxonomy is more or less a classification of similar things. Okay, so by understanding the flow of the various tasks that users would want to maybe undertake on your product, you can start to think about what sort of uh, similar elements or similar things that you can group together. Okay, so for example, now for Uber, okay, I keep going back to Uber. For Uber, you can now look at it at the top level and say, oh, they are going to book rides at this portion, at this part of the process. Oh, which means at this part we can have our different types of cars show up. Okay, it's more or less creating a taxonomy. It's more or less creating similar elements. So I think Taxify used to do something like that, where when you see the cars, you see, Taxify lights, you see the bigger car, you see the luxury cars, Lyft, I think Lyft even has up to 5 categories of cars you can, book. So that's a way of user journeys helping you to group similar elements together because you are looking at things from a top level. So remember that you are looking at things from a top level, okay? So you don't need to get too deep into the entire process, which is what user flows are majorly for, okay? So how do you create user journeys? Okay, I'm sure some of you saw the calling wires and all. You don't need to do too much. Okay, you can just write your user. My very first, I don't even think I think my first 10 user journeys, personas and user flows were text, strictly text. So you don't need to go crazy with the whole thing. Okay, there are tools you can use. I introduce you to the tools at the end of today's class. Okay, there are tools you can use to do all that. But don't think too deeply about it. Okay, just take what you have gotten from your research. You can write it down on paper, transfer to text, and if you feel comfortable, making it look beautiful. The only reason why we make them look that beautiful is because of clients. Okay, if you give a client a text document as a user journey, they are like, they feel grumpy and all. But when you present them something that's looking nice and all, that's majorly the only reason. I won't lie to you. Your journey can be in text format, and you won't have any problem. Okay. So when creating a user journey, it's important to remember that, again, just like personas, there's no golden ratio. There's no definite way of me telling you this is how you should do it. Okay. So that's why I said today's class is somehow. Bear with me. So it's important to keep a few things in mind. Okay. So I think did I list them? Okay, yeah, I listed them out. So remember these things. I'm not saying these are the golden ratios. I'm just saying you should keep this in mind when you're creating user journeys. Okay. There's no golden ratio. It's the same for personas, it's the same for journeys, it's the same for flows, it's the same for, I'm giving you a spoiler now, it's the same for flows, it's the same for information architecture. There's no golden ratio, okay? You just have to think deeply about these things, okay? And that's why the process repeats itself, because when something goes wrong, you can always go back and fix it, okay? First thing to know when creating journey maps is don't jump straight to visualization, okay? I said, like, I know we are designers, okay? We want to impress, color, shadows, all this, beautiful this, beautiful that, draw one illustration here and there, okay? Don't jump straight to visualization. Write it down, think about it, write it down, okay? And then if you can transfer it to, a document format like, Google Doc format, fine. By then you have understood what is important because you have thought about it. Because the moment you start designing, you get attached to the design. Okay, when you jump straight to start visualizing it and painting it and all, you get carried away and you just start bringing in so many things that the journey ends up becoming a flow. Okay. Two, don't make it too complex, okay? Remember to see it as a top level interaction, nothing else, okay? Look at it at a top level, It's more or less like a summary of what a user would do on your platform, okay? That's just a journey, okay? So don't start thinking of the individual processes, because that is where the flow is. Okay, the flow is in the individual processes. Okay, so think of it like the flow is embedded inside the journey. Okay, and last but not least, try to involve people. Okay, more heads lead to better results. Okay, which is why we do the UX process. Ideally, you should be working with multiple people. Okay, ideally you should be working with multiple people. And when you tell them about this is what your journey looks like, another person can come in and say, okay, why not do this? Why not do that? And the more opinions you have, the better results you can get at the end of the day. Okay, so now we are on the user flows. Okay, so user flow is more or less, a part taken, by a user on the website, or an app to complete a task. Okay, so the user flow takes them from their entry point, through a set of steps towards a successful outcome, or maybe a final action. Okay, for example, a common example might be purchasing a product. Okay, common example of a flow might be I go to Jumia. Okay, and then I click the categories of maybe games. Maybe I want to purchase a PlayStation 5, for example, and I select the PlayStation 5. I'm asked for the quantity I want. Maybe I want two, one for myself and a friend. I select two. Then they ask me for contact details, shipping details. Those are the different processes, and then finally they say, how do I want to pay? Do I want to, pay on delivery, or do I want to pay now? Maybe I might choose pay on delivery, and then I check out. Okay, so that is one way of looking at a user flow. Okay, it's a set of steps towards a successful outcome. So remember, journey is always limited to 4 to 12, but a flow can be longer than that. Okay, a flow can be as long as you want it to be, as long as the user doesn't get tired of that process. Okay, so let me use another example. Okay, so let's say you are uh, on the home page, okay, of a law firm, okay, and you want to book a lawyer. Okay, you go through the home page and then you see the option for you to book. Okay, and then you click that, and then they ask you your problems or what issues you're tackling. You want them to tackle for you. You select that. They give you a list of lawyers with maybe their ratings. You pick one or two of those lawyers, and then maybe you do a comparison, and then you select one eventually. And after you select that, you get to get his details and all. At the end of the day, when you finish booking him, and you receive the confirmation, that is it. Okay? It's a process, step by step, that you take to achieve a certain action, okay, or a certain result. The journey is the entire thing. The flow is to achieve a particular thing. Okay, just remember that as the difference. So the journey is the entire thing. Okay, the flow is a particular thing. Okay, a particular end goal. So the user flow is more or less concerned with the specific path that a user would follow. Okay, in a product. Okay, you want to post a picture on Instagram, for example. Okay, you go to the plus, you select picture, you tag people, you do all that, you select your filters, you do all the basic things that you want to do, and then you hit post. That's basically the flow at the end of the day. Okay, so it's always related with things like pages, screens, interactions, and the likes. So the journey is top level. The flow is more or less you relating with pages. Okay, when you might have page one, page two, page 3 or 4, page 5 or 5, when you're performing actions in sequence, in a sequential manner. Okay. So that's majorly a flow. And you have to think deeply about a flow, and you have to like find a way to order the flow. When we get to, I think Saturday's class should be ideation, okay, where we'll now talk about how you can now create wireframes and how you can sketch things out. This is where you now think of the flow deeply. Okay, so maybe you're thinking of a flow for registration, or you're thinking of a flow for onboarding. Okay, onboarding is a very common way of explaining flow. The user comes to your app, you have a splash screen, for example, and then an animation plays out and then it fades out, and then you have the first form of onboarding. Maybe it's an illustration or a picture of someone, a catchy headline, and then the person can skip or can swipe through, until they get to the page where they now say sign up or sign in. Okay, that is at the onboarding flow. Okay, so it's majorly concerned with screens, pages. Interactions are always involved in flows as well. When we get to prototyping, we'll learn how to do some interactions. How maybe you can perform some little animations, within your design. So this is what the user flow looks like. So for those who might have done computer science, for example, you will recognize some of these diagrams. So they are user flow diagrams or flow chart diagrams. Okay, so again, put it down on paper, transfer to a document format before you do this. Okay, because when you jump in, you get carried away. Because even a flow can end up becoming very, very complex. Okay, so it's important to understand the different, the varying actions the user will perform, before you start. Okay, so again, a user flow can be text. Okay, you don't need to go crazy. Okay, it can always be text. Okay, so why do we need user flows? Okay, so the first thing, is one of the benefits is communication. Okay, so it's a type of it's a very understandable type of presentation for non-designers. Okay, it makes it easier to discuss the design and the functions of the platform with the client, during the process. Okay, this takes us more or less back to clients. If you start telling a client about hue, saturation, you know, baseline, or designer terms, they get lost. Okay, so you are using user flows to more or less communicate, some of these things to them in a way that they, as business people, already understand. Okay, they are non-designers, but when they look at the whole flow, they can get it. Okay, they see an arrow pointing from first thing, maybe a splash screen. Oh, that's where it starts from. Okay, and they can draw it, they can trace it. Even people who are not even really business inclined can just look at the flow and get the broad picture of what you are trying to accomplish or what you are trying to achieve. Okay. The second benefit is it focuses on experience, not design details. Okay. So by working with user flows, focus is will be majorly on experiences, and the needs of the user, not the design, of the details of the screen. Okay. So user flows is more or less, the user will be here and the user will see an illustration, or the animation will be this, the ball will be bouncing, this, that, that, but you are not yet designing it. Okay. The user flow is explaining it, but you are not yet designing it. It helps you get, that's where it brings us to documentation, because when you are focusing on the experience and not the design details, you have a sort of document to fall back on when you start designing, or when you start ideating, that is, making sketches or making wireframes. So if you remember the design thinking process, everything follows each other. Okay, here, once you've done the user flow, when it's time to sketch, you are not thinking so much, because you can pull out your journey map, you can pull out your user flow diagram, and you can look at it and begin sketching. Okay, that's why we're going through a process. Okay, the documentation helps you to, do what it says. It documents it. So when you start wireframing, when you start, sketching, you have something that has already been thought out or has already been finalized on as the user flow. Okay. So how do you create user flows? Yeah, I've already given a spoiler on that. There's no definite way. Okay. So just like Johnny Maps, there's no golden ratio. There's no golden way of making it. Okay. Just you have to analyze your product very well. Okay. And come up with a user flow. Now, that's about the best advice anyone can give you for these three things. Okay. So always remember the journey map or the user journey is the top level view. So you should not be, should not make it too complex. It should be understandable. Just like how if I tell anyone, Instagram, oh, that platform, you see pictures, you like pictures, you can also post your pictures. That is about it. Okay. That's the user journey. Okay. And when you now talk about the user flows, we now have the different points, of levels of interaction within the journey. Okay. So the user flow can be more than one. Okay. So you can have more than one user flow. Okay. That's one of the things you should note. The user flow should not be restricted to one thing. You can have a flow for onboarding. You can have a flow for even sign up. Okay. Because some products might want more than just email and password. Okay. Airbnb has a wonderful user flow for sign up, where they ask for information and then they take you through different screens. Okay. It can be for sign up, it can be for posting, an image, it can be like Instagram. That's a flow when you want to post something. Okay. It can be for updating your details. Okay. It can be for so many different things. Okay. So remember, just put it down in text first before you start using tools, to beautify and all. Okay, so that you don't get too attached to it when you're using tools. It's always safer to put it down in text before any other thing. So this brings us to, I think this should be the last part of today, which is information architecture. Okay, information architecture, or IA. Okay, like some people call it for short. You need to look cool sometimes when you say IA. It focuses on organizing, structuring, and labeling content. Okay, in an effective and sustainable way. Okay, so sometimes people mistake information architecture for navigation. Okay, they are almost the same, but they are not the same. Okay, so the goal of information architecture is more or less to help users find information and complete tasks. Okay, so think of navigation as a part of the information architecture. Okay, navigation helps users to go through your product. Okay, you can have your menus. Okay, like you have home, about, contact, and all. Now think of information architecture of the way of organizing those info. Okay, for example, in your about section, you can now have more or less a drop down menu of important things. But you can't have the about section or the about link on your menu, and then on the drop down you have contact us or you have buy something from us. Okay, underneath the about menu item. Okay, information architecture helps you to more or less understand the user, what they expect, and know how to group your info or your important, forms of navigation. Okay, in a way that a user would use your product well. Okay, I think in this first week, when we talked about bad UIs, we gave an example of bad information architecture where everything is just all over the place, so many things. Okay, here you get to know whether something is important or not. Okay, for example, is it important for us to add our team as a menu item? Okay, it may not be. It may just be on your about page and there's a section for our team. Getting, because people may never really click on that. Okay, so information architecture is more or less you organizing okay, and structuring and labeling content, in an effective way, so that users can know, at what point they are, okay, within your product, okay. So look at Instagram, for example. You have the home, you have the search, you have the post. Uh, what else? What else? You have the profile section, and then I think your notifications. That's fine. That's the entire information architecture, okay? Because they've looked at it and there are so many things that are irrelevant, okay? I want to see everything, I go to home, okay? I'm looking for something, I search, okay? I want to post, I click the add button, okay? I want to know what has been happening. I want to be up to date with my, likes and all. I go to the notification section. So, and I want to manage my profile, I go to the profile section. Okay, that's an example of a very rich and a very solid information, architecture. Okay, so why do we need this? Okay, generally, information architecture just helps, users understand where they are, okay, what they have found. So I'm in your homepage. What have I found on your homepage, for example? Okay, what is around them? Okay, I'm seeing pictures of, I'm seeing maybe a call to action. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that. Okay, and what to expect. Okay, so when we talked about, bad UI examples in week one, we said when things are not consistent, users don't know what to expect, okay? And one of them is information architecture, okay? There are words, there are phrases, okay? Words, there are phrases, there are sentences that many people have come to understand in the digital world, okay? When you make use of those words, when you make use of those phrases, people feel comfortable and know what to expect, okay? So if I say store as a menu item, okay, they know they are going to a store, okay? If I say shop, for example, as a menu item, they know they are going to, also a store, it means they are going there to buy something. If I say contact us, for example, it means, oh, that should be the contact section, okay? But when I go out of context and I'm bringing in words that, people are not familiar with, they don't know what to expect. So they will most likely never click on those menu items, okay? The same thing applies for mobile apps. When, there's one of the rules stated that when you want to, rules for using icons, I think when we get to the UI fundamentals, we'll talk about some of those things. Okay, where you want to make use of an icon, for example, and it's not a universal icon, for example. We know universal icons like home, search, these are things that come naturally to people. We have the phone icon as a call, those are icons people can look at and immediately they understand what they are. Okay, but when you're on a mobile device, for example, and you don't make use of these icons, you want to maybe create your own unique set of icons, a user can get lost. Okay, so you need to accompany them with bits of text. Okay, you need to accompany them with maybe labels, underneath them for users to know what they are, before they can click on them. So this is what information architecture helps us with. So basically, it helps the user know where they are, what they have found, what is around them and what they can expect. And this is sort of overlooked because people just feel, oh, this is a product. I just slam home about, contact us, FAQ, blah, 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 and they're done, And at the end of the day, when, the website is up or the app is live, and they're going through maybe their Google Analytics numbers, they're discovering people are not going past their homepage, okay? They're not going past your homepage for a reason because, they've seen what they want to see, but they don't know what to expect on those other places, because things were not maybe structured well, they were not labeled well, they were not presented in a good way, So it's important to always go back to your research, okay, and then understand the kind of audience you are aiming for. That way you will know how to structure things. So again, just like journey maps, user flows, and personas, there's no golden way for creating information architecture, okay? you need to analyze your product very, very deeply. But there are some things you can, take into consideration. Okay. The first one would be to you should be logical. Okay. So even though information architecture is a UX process, okay, for maybe user interaction, you know, every step of the way needs to make sense. Okay. So every form of navigation needs to make sense. Just like I've said, okay, you need to be logical. Don't throw in big words or, fancy navigation elements just for the sake of you want to create something different. Okay. Users don't like change. It's a sad thing. It's a very sad thing, but users don't really like change. Uh, they want to be comfortable with what they have already. So when you come in and then they are not seeing article or blog, as something that would lead them to read your blog post, but instead they are seeing maybe news or something. They get confused. They're like, oh, I can't do this. So be very logical, with the words you use, okay, and the way you structure things. Number two, always use the UX process, okay? So don't say, oh, you already know what to do. It's just a navigation, okay? Always use your UX process, because the kind of clients you will have or the kind of people you have researched to determine, how they will want to get information, okay? So for maybe a younger generation, those guys don't have time. They don't want to read anything, okay? The way you will structure your navigation would definitely be different. It can be, anyhow. See, I think one of the things you can also look at when we go further down the line, I think that's towards the end when we talk about designing for mobile and web. Okay. If you look at Instagram's navigation, it's at the bottom. Okay. They thought about some particular things. They researched. Okay. How do people scroll? They scroll from the bottom. Okay. Where is the finger most comfortable at? Is at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Let's make the navigation easier for them. So you find that you can spend hours on Instagram because the mode for navigating Instagram is easier on you, compared to other products. So if you notice, people like Twitter have opted for the bottom navigation. Other people are now opting for the bottom navigation as well. So your research will help you a lot when you are checking out, the category of people who would use that product. Okay, and that way you can actually make solid, decisions around your information architecture. Okay, so the third one is you are the cartographer. Okay, so a cartographer is, I think, someone who designs maps. Okay, so if you tell a cartographer make a map for me, okay, he has to think of what will be important for you. Okay, some years back, there was a popular designer in New York. I can't remember his name. And he was asked to redesign the map of New York. Okay. And he looked at the old map. Oh my God, he had so many things, so many unnecessary info. Okay. So he had to create a map that would be easy on the eye and, at the same time give you information. So how do you do that? You have to be brutal about things, okay? You have to take away things that you don't need, okay? Which is part of the UX process. You need to make some, solid stance. Even though sometimes you may not have the power to do so, because some clients, like I said, I think first week, he will break some of these rules, okay? Because some clients will be very adamant and be like, no, we want this here, we want that here. You don't have the power to do that, okay? Just until maybe the day you become like a top guy or a very famous UX guy, maybe they will believe you then and they will just say, yes, sir, yes, sir. But, you need to, take away things that are not necessary, okay? Like I said, when we were talking earlier, in your about section, if you don't need the theme section, you take it out, okay? Because a user wants info and they want it fast. They don't want to waste time on your platform. They want to get what they want and they want to go. So as a cartographer, as a map maker, okay, you need to provide info in a way that it is not overwhelming. Okay, the user sees it, knows what it is, knows what to do with it, and moves on. Okay, imagine getting an old school map now and saying, "Take, look at this." Okay, or imagine getting the actual version of the world map, with everything it needs. So on the world map, you are seeing every single thing in Nigeria, on the world map. That's information overload. Okay, so you need to more or less strip out things that are not necessary, and keep the things, that are necessary. So last but not least, information architecture is ever changing and evolving. Okay, so like all things in this generation, things move, extremely fast. Okay, things move very, very fast. So you should always pay attention to some of these things. It's just like how Instagram started the bottom navigation and people got used to it. People were like, "Oh, this is very comfortable." You know, Others started picking up on it. Everyone started changing their navigation menus to the bottom. Making it easier for users to reach. So these are things you can look out for. These are things you can pay attention to. That way you sort of create products that people feel much more comfortable with using. Okay. So we are at the end, and I'll talk about the tools that you can use. Okay. Uh, First one is a text editor. Yes, you don't need much. Okay. You don't need much. There are links to all of them except the text editor. I think everyone already has one. Microsoft Word or whichever one will be fine. Okay. So yes, you don't need much. Okay. You don't need beyond the text editor for most of these things. Okay. Like I said, there are top guys who don't even use any of these things. They just have the Microsoft suite, and then they create their user flows with PowerPoint. They create their personas with PowerPoint. Some of them use PowerPoint all the way. So the tool doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, focus on the process. Okay, focus on understanding it as a whole and knowing how to bring out those important ideas, put them onto paper, and transfer to a text editor. You should be fine. Okay, for the kind of project you are doing, you should be fine. So why we use these tools is more or less to show some form of class or some form of you know appeal to clients. Okay, so there's Lucid Charts. Lucid Charts can help you create user flows, and you can also use it to create information architecture. Some of them can be used for one thing, some can be used for multiple. Koggle can be Koggle is majorly used for user journeys, but you can also use it for user flows as well. Okay, many of them can be used for about the same thing. Okay, so there are links to them. They are pretty straightforward. They have straightforward tutorials on YouTube. You can just find straightforward tutorials on them. But for the time being, when you are maybe submitting your assignments, it's not necessary for you to use any of these formats. Okay, you can always present your assignments in a text format, and it's more than fine. Okay, you don't have to do anything crazy. So so these are your assignments. Okay.
Ewo.
So these are your assignments. So don't worry. There's unlimited time for you to do this. So,
Okay, it's
so,
all right. It's all right.
so based on your product, based on your brief, you will create a user journey. Okay. Remember, you can just use text. Okay. Don't stress yourselves, please. You can just use text. All these other things are just fancy stuff. When you get the hang of design, it doesn't take long to pull off some of these things. The actual long process is in thinking about it. The rest is just, beautifying and all, you know. So you create a user journey. Remember, we said it's a top level of your product. So your user journey can just be 5 list items. Okay. So it's a straightforward assignment. So if your product is maybe an e-commerce store, the user journey will be something like the user comes in, selects a product, he clicks buy to buy the product, he enters his details for shipping, and he pays and he checks out. Okay, that's your journey. Okay, your user flow will be more or less different. So you will focus on different aspects of what you would want to achieve based on your application. So it might be the flow might now be to purchase one item. Okay. The flow might be to purchase one particular item, maybe to purchase one particular item, you know. So you can now go about it by saying, oh, the user comes in, he selects an item. After he selects the item, okay, he selects the quantity, he puts in more details, okay, like his name, that is the flow, is much more detailed, okay. So the third assignment is you should create two personas for your product. Okay, at least two personas. So if you can do 100, no problem. I don't mind. So, but at least two personas. Okay, it can be one for the younger bracket, one for the older bracket. Okay, there is a sample persona that you can use. Okay, so there's no problem. You can play off that if you can do something better. So I did the persona in Word just to show you that it's possible to pull it off in Word. Okay, you can use PowerPoint, you can use whatever. Okay, later on when you get the hang of design, you start doing personas in maybe Figma or XD. Which will be faster. Okay, which will be faster. But I've not gotten there. So you create at least two personas, and then you can submit that. Then last but not least, you should create an information architecture for your product. Okay, so I think based on what you've learned, you should be fine. You should be fine. Just take it easy. Saturday's class will be straightforward. It may not even be more than 30 minutes because we are just talking on ideation. Okay, so ideation is more or less you sketching out and thinking aloud about what your product would be like. Okay. Ideally, ideation is a class that is better done with a crowd where you will not bring in maybe a design sprint, but because of COVID, we cannot have a physical class because ideation is much more fun when there's a team or like a crowd. So everyone is just spitting out their crazy ideas, and people are laughing at each other and all, But you can always do that on your own, and then hopefully COVID goes down, we'll find time to do something like that. Okay, so guys, that's the end for today's class. Okay, so if someone has questions, I think you can go ahead and ask.
We've posted some questions in the chat section, so you can actually check the chat questions.
Okay, so is user journey or map same as use case? Okay, use case is more or less like a diagram, okay, in computer science. So user journey is just the holistic view of the process of the product, okay. The use case is more or less a tool that you can use to achieve that, okay. So that's more or less the difference between the two. Because in actual sense, use case is a computer, a flowchart diagram, sort of. Is it the same as product roadmap? Okay. Product roadmap. Okay. Product roadmap is more or less concerned with the end, the different stages involved in the different stages involved in the success of that product. Okay, so it's more or less a product designer that will be bothered about the product roadmap because you are now looking at deadlines, releases. That's like version 1, version 1.1, version 1. That's more or less a product roadmap. Okay, the journey is how a user would use your product at the top level. So it's a summary of how your product or your website or your app would be like. Okay. Is there also a tool to create an IA in a particular product and definitely one user? And yes, so you're right there. You can have multiple user flows. Yes, you can have as many user flows as you want, depending on how complex the product is. Okay, so but the journey is always one thing. Okay, the journey should always be one thing. I think there are some products who break the rule of the one journey thing. But those will be products that are very, very complex, or I'll call them maybe IaaS products. Yeah, I think the infrastructure as a service products. So things like maybe the Google Cloud Platform, things like Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Service. Their journeys they will have a lot of journeys baked in. So it's those are extremely extremely complex piece of software. So those would definitely have more than one journey, and they will have so many flows baked into those different journeys. But for most products that people will use on a daily basis, I think in one journey is it, and then multiple flows. Okay, how do I explain difference between? Okay, although I left an article to NN Group, so think of the navigation as how you will structure, the way a user would go through your product. Okay, information architecture is more or less you now finding a way to structure it better. Okay, so information architecture is now you grouping things that should be similar together and creating this kind of simple flow for the user. Okay, so the user comes to your site or your app or anything at all. Everything should be simple. It should be straightforward. So if I'm in the home page, I shouldn't be seeing. Okay, let's even use an app for example. If I'm in the feed section of the app, I shouldn't be seeing settings like click settings here. I shouldn't be seeing anything relating to settings at all. Okay, it's when I go to the navigation part of your app, I should now be able to see things like maybe settings or a user profile or something. But on that home page, I should be able to see what is relevant for that page. Okay, so information architecture is more or less you grouping things that should be similar together and creating some form of navigation for it. Okay, navigation is more or less inside information architecture, but information architecture encompasses the whole thing. Okay, I hope I explained that better. Okay. Okay, so can personas be related to a target audience? Okay, so personas are more or less fictional characters, okay? And yes, it can be related to an audience, meaning it can be related to like a group, a certain group of people, or a certain, sorry for the noise, a certain group of people or a certain, age group or category of people. So we're just creating fictional characters, okay? They are not, how will I put it? They are not real life people. They are just people we have created based on the research we have gotten, okay? Why we are doing this is so that when we are designing, we are not thinking of ourselves. Remember, designers are very, very selfish people, okay? Very selfish. Oh my God. I'm very sorry for the noise, my junior brother. So, my junior brother. So, when we create personas, we are creating it to step out of ourselves so that when we're designing, we're not like, oh, these are the type of people that will be using the product. So if the person is a middle-aged man, you would expect some particular attributes from him. If the person is a married man, you would expect some particular attributes from him. So, if it's a married man, there are particular designs you will go for, there are particular colors, there are particular aesthetics you will go for. If it is a youth or a teenager, there are particular aesthetics you will go for. You will go with maybe warm colors, okay? You will go with natural colors, colors that occur in nature, you will go with typography that is friendly, okay? That is why we create these personas, so that we can know who the actual audience is, That's why we do research. You have researched, you have gotten these different people, Then you now analyze. When you analyze, you can now know, okay, these are the type of people that actually use the product, okay? And then you go further from there. So are we going to get the yeah, you get it, but I'm still trying to talk with Chike. Chike was the one that recorded the last session, so I'm trying to get the video from him because I don't want to upload this before last week's one. Okay, but if I get that, both of them will go up virtually at the same time. Okay, but since I'm recording, we'll get this as well. Okay. So how many more users do you need to test a product? Since some problems are universal and only takes one user to point them out. Okay, so okay, there's a golden rule that you don't need more than 10 people to test. Okay, so 5 to 10. Okay, so some people believe, will I put this? Designers are like, doctors and mathematicians. People have their different theories and then everybody starts fighting at the end of the day. But according to Interaction Design Foundation, okay, which are one of the guys that coined all these terms and all these words we're using, they said 5 to 10, okay? Some people argue 5, some people argue 10, okay? Then there's a middle ground where some people argue 7, okay? But anything you go with 5 to 10 will not fail, okay? That's if you are doing interviews, okay? If you are doing interviews, you need 5 to 10 people, okay? Most interviews I've done with just 5 people and I've gotten virtually, the basic info I need, okay? Remember, it's a process, okay? Once you've gotten those ideas from those 5 people, you've gotten what you need from those 5 people, you go ahead, you implement and you test, okay? Why you're testing is to be sure that, okay, you have met a need. If you haven't, you go back, okay? Remember, it's a process, okay? The process reiterates, the process, continues. So you are not, you're not just creating the product and saying, I'm done, okay? When you create it, and put it out there, there are always things you would want to change. I'm sure there are things you don't like about Twitter. There are things you don't like about Facebook. There are things you don't like about Instagram, okay? That is why the process is continuous. And you see these people rolling out updates from time to time, because there are things they are always fixing, okay? So it's once you have 5 people, you are good to go. And then you run with the process using the knowledge from those 5 people or the research from those 5 people. And then when you are done, you test anything that is going on that's not, up to expectation. You research that again and you continue going. Okay. So any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, so it looks like we don't have any more questions, but if you have, or if you happen to think of one, you can always ask on the group. So as regarding the research assignment, if you've done yours in Google Forms or whichever format, you can always send to the group. So people can always help each other out, okay? You can always take someone's questionnaire, you can always fill it, you can share with your friends as well. So they can get as many people to, view the questionnaires or answer it so they can get more info, which they can analyze and all. Okay. But and again, I would advise that you give yourself a time frame. Okay. So like if you've gotten the amount you feel you're comfortable with, you can block the form from receiving responses. Okay. And then you can work with that data that you get, so that you're not confused that, oh, you've already started creating journeys or you've already started creating flows and then you're getting new info. Okay. The way it works is you get the info you need, you stop, you research that, you see that till completion, and then any other thing that comes up, has to start again as a new process. So that way you don't get confused, okay? Because when you're bringing in new things as you go along, you tend to find it difficult to keep up. Okay. So guys, have a wonderful evening. Okay, and best of luck on the assignments. Okay. I'm sorry. I wanted to make it limited, but I didn't know what to do again. So please forgive me on the assignments. But you have enough time. Okay. So take care and have a lovely evening. Okay, so on Saturday we'll meet and then Saturday will be nice. Okay, I just wish Saturday was a physical meetup, because that's one of the parts I like the most, But no problem. Okay, take care, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.